In 2012, from her dorm room with $1,000 in savings, our guest launched one of the longest running high-frequency trading hedge funds in the world. What? This is a remarkable startup story, and wait until you hear what this fab female founder is doing next. Stay tuned for the Startup Life Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Startup Life Show. I'm your host, Ande, Lyons, startup coach to first-time founders. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, well, now I help newly minted business owners sleep through the night by giving them peace of mind because, yeah, that's right. A new business, it does not come with instructions. Thank you for carving out time to tune in and up your founder game while cheering on a fellow founder. And for those of you watching the replay, please like this video and be sure to click the subscribe button. Thank you. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest, Christina Qi. And as I said earlier, from her dorm room, oh my gosh, using only $1,000 in savings, Christina launched Domeyard LP, one of the longest running high-frequency trading hedge funds in the world. Domeyard trades up to 7.1 billion USD per day, and Christina's launch story has been featured on the front page of Forbes and quoted in the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, CNN, NBC, and the Financial Times. And today, because there ain't no stopping this woman, right? Today, Christina is the CEO of Databento, an on-demand data platform for asset managers and quants. After years of making billionaires richer, she wanted to offer a product that made the financial industry accessible for all types of customers. Oh my gosh, wait till you meet Christina. Welcome to the show, Christina Qi.
Hi, Ande. It's so great to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. I was watching the Mass Challenge Awards last night, which is always so much fun because they give a ton of money out. I mean, $100,000, $50,000, $25,000, and they had to do it virtually this year. And they had a wonderful applause track. So I've got to get that on for the show here. It'd be really fun to be going, yay! Yeah. For the virtual experience. Where are you hailing from today?
So today I am coming from Utah, actually.
Wow, that's wonderful. I'm in Boston. Hey, viewers, where are you hailing from? Be sure to put that in the comments section. I'll, of course, blow you kisses. Christina will wave and high five you, fist bump, whatever. But also, I want to remind you, do you have a business? Put the name of your business and the URL into the comment thread so I can pull it up here on the screen and give you a shout out. And at the same time, use this as an opportunity to network because we're not networking anywhere else, are we, Christina?
No.
And so share your business card, i.e. your LinkedIn URL, and talk amongst each other, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or Periscope. This is the StreamYard platform, and we are live all over the place today, sharing a remarkable woman right here, the Christina Qi, and her story. And when I said earlier in her bio, she's been featured seriously. I mean, you teach case studies, right, about this experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I teach case studies about basically all the stuff we did wrong and why you should not do those mistakes that I made, basically. So absolutely.
Yeah. And we learn so much from our mistakes. We've learned a lot vicariously from other folks' mistakes. So wow. And I want to say hi to a wonderful woman. Thank you so much, Kirsten Hancock, founder of Blue Maestro, an Internet of Things, Christina, which is out of Texas. And she's, she has worked really hard on this business for years. It's never an overnight success, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Absolutely.
gosh. Thanks for always tuning in. You're going to love Christina's story. Anyway, so now that we have all that housekeeping out of the way for folks, just again, reminding them to pop their businesses into the comment thread so I can share it. Let's get into your launch story. First of all, had you ever been an entrepreneur, Christina, before you launched your business?
So Domeyard was my first company before Databento, and that was the hedge fund basically. So I before that though I was literally a student when I had launched my first company. So I'm super definitely was not in a position to start a business. I feel like you're never really ready to start a company. You're never ready for anything in life, 100%. But just kind of went for it and was started it based on passion and what would wake me up in the morning, and just realized that this was something that would wake me up in the morning, and instead of going to work in finance, which is, there's nothing wrong with working in any industry, or working in a large firm. It's just for me personally, I didn't feel as motivated waking up and going to a giant bank and working in that kind of environment. And so just kind of realized, oh, this would be interesting to do. And I know the chances of success are super slim, but at least for now it wakes me up and keeps me going, and that's what it means to live. So
you're like, curious minds want to know, right? What did something did you read it at school? Did you read something that you went, oh, you know what, this just lights up my life. I'm passionate about it. I really want to do this. I know I don't know anything about it, but my North Star is so solid right now and in place. Because I know something compelled you. You read something happened.
Yeah. So actually, my startup and pretty much everything else I've done is kind of born out a bunch of failures. And so I actually had a really bad internship experience in college on Wall Street, where there was a lot of kind of fraternity hazing, a lot of, just an environment that was pretty toxic, actually. So, I mean, I could describe some examples, like they would make us grab coffee every morning for the team, which is fine. That's okay, right? I still grab coffee for my team today, as CEO, and I think that's something that I should be doing. But they would time you for 5 minutes, and if you don't come back within 5 minutes, you go on the ground and you do push-ups, and people would be cheering. It's kind of like a Wolf of Wall Street environment. And I was like, whoa, this is a little bit crazy. And so the first day I was doing push-ups, I texted my friend Amy. I'm like, haha, I'm being paid to do push-ups. And then Amy texts me back. She's like, Christina, that's abuse. I was like, what? Really? I didn't, back then I had no idea what are signs of abuse. Like, what does that even mean? But realizing that subjecting people to punishments like that,
Right.
Wasn't exactly the best way to run a company and to run an organization like that. So I came back. I didn't get a return offer, and obviously was a bad intern as well. So it goes two ways. I was also a bad intern.
But I got to tell you, and I went to an all-women's MBA program, Christina. We talked about this, and it was founded by two PhD professors from Harvard Business School.
Wow.
And they got tired of all of this male antics. I mean, the guys, it might be fun to do that amongst guys. You can see the push-ups, to ask a woman to do that. Now, come on, wake up, kids. And so, that's what happens when you go into finance. It is still, right to this day, pretty much male-dominated industry. And
it felt like a very hormone-induced, environment with like the push-ups and the coffee adrenaline runs and all this.
Right. And guys who are listening, you have to understand, we get caught up in semantics, which is why I love single gender learning moments. But, so we are often saying the same thing and doing the same thing, but we're women, we do a lot of things differently in how we communicate. And it's so important to honor all the gifts that we bring, even though we tap into our wonderful male energy, where we're doing certain things, just like guys can tap into their feminine energy. I'm happy to see a lot of this is broadening, right, Christina, in the communication. And we'll dive into that a little bit later, because I don't want to get too far off track onto there you were in your college dorm. Now, were you in grad school at this point?
So I was actually an undergrad. I was literally 20 years old. had no idea what I was doing in my life. I entered the internship thinking, oh, it's time for me to learn from the adults in the room. I'm excited to enter the real world, whatever that is. And my impression was, oh, this is the real world. I had no idea that most companies usually aren't like this. But just came back, didn't have a return offer to begin with, and so didn't really have a choice. And that's when we started to trade on our own. And it's funny because today it's easier than ever, because now we have Robinhood and all these other apps that you just download and get started with, like, $20, right? But back then, this was only around 8 or 9 years ago, but back then, I guess, these apps didn't exist, and so it was a little slightly, harder to start. But
so you got the passion, you got the bug, you got the vibe from the trading, and then you watched what the hedge funds did, because that is data extreme. Yep. Right? I mean, hedge funds is all about stats. It's all about the numbers. So your left brain was going, yay! And so, but to launch a hedge fund, like, can you just take us through the flow of how did you, place the money, put an LLC, Inc., however you do it, in a partnership for something like that? How did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So we basically, I think we were just bitten by the startup bug when I got back and started trading. And what was interesting is it was just super empowering to do it on our own, even if it was like a little bit of money at a time. I had earned $1,000 from the internship and then use that to start trading. And then from there, the time when it started to get serious was when I signed up for these pitch contests and speaking opportunities. Like Startup Live is a great example of one of those events that we would have signed up for if it was back then around in Boston. And so, So we signed up for like every single event. I've never won a single pitch contest. And I continue to sign up to this day because of how much value it brings me. But it's fascinating because I lost, there was one day when I had, the story was that I signed up for Microsoft's pitch contest in Cambridge, locally, went to their office, and there's 30 startups that pitched, and there were 25 startups, there were 25 prizes that were awarded. So 25 startups got prizes from all the different sponsors in the room. And I was one of the 5 startups that didn't get a prize. And I felt, and it's a very human thing to be bummed every time anyway, because even though people take it over, but we're human. And so you still feel like, oh, I put my effort in there and I didn't get anything back. So you feel a little disappointed.
Especially if you're into achieving.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, which is wonderful. An ambitious woman.
Yeah, I was, so I felt really bummed, and everyone was in the reception afterwards. Everyone's like congratulating each other, and shaking hands and congratulating. And I was like, okay, well, I should probably leave because I didn't get anything. And so I felt kind of bummed, wanted to leave early. Thankfully, I said thank you to the organizer. And so I said thank you to the organizer, and she was like, oh, have you met this guy named Gary before? And I was like, no, I haven't. So she brings me over to this elderly, he looks like he's in his 80s-ish guy. And he's like, oh, yeah, he's in your industry, so you guys should meet. And so I talked with him for quite a long time. And then we went downstairs and chatted more in a quiet, cafe. And he told me about himself, and I, told him all the struggles we were having with our hedge. We're trying to do maybe a hedge fund, maybe not, right? And he said, well, how much money do you need? And I was like, wait, what? And he just takes out a checkbook and he writes me a check, for $100,000. And I was like, holy crap. And he tells me his story, which is that he started his hedge fund in the 1970s, and someone was his angel. Someone wrote him his first check. And he was also out of college too. So he's like fresh out of school, brand new to the industry. Someone was his angel. And he said he was passing the baton, over. And I was about to cry because I literally went that day from losing a pitch contest to winning a prize,
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, I feel that moment coming on. I may have told you earlier, the Andelicious moment. All right, everybody, this is an Andelicious moment. I'm just going to come into the screen here and say, this is why you suit up and show up, and always be looking for those seeds, those golden seeds of opportunity. Nothing will happen if you don't show up like Christina did. Christina, I have such goosebumps from that story. Oh my gosh. And to be so in alignment with the person, right? Mm-hmm. And that's another Andelicious moment, folks. When you get money, it's got to be money from someone who really gets what you're doing. And for you to meet someone who launched a hedge fund right out of school. I mean, that's real synergy. They're going to really understand what you're going through. I want to say hi, first of all, to Ted. Hi, Ted, waving to you. Phoenix, you're amazing. It's always so good to see you. And Oliver, who rocked our world last Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in as well. Did you ever meet Oliver when you were in Boston?
I did not actually, but thank you, Oliver, for your comment. It means a lot.
He is an angel investor and a tech founder, and he has the Accel Hub, which supports our LATAM founders.
Oh, awesome.
And helps them grow globally as well as in the U.S. and get started in the U.S. So he's just doing such great work. And yes, Kirsten, OMG on this story, right? What? 100K? Like just chatting with the guy.
Crazy.
And they had so much. But look, I think I may know who the person was who made the introduction. This is what we do. It's always about opening doors. I have to say hi to my wonderful designer, Canva, brilliant designer, Nikki Pasquier. She took my Andelicious brand and everything you see right here in the room, etc. This is Nikki. Be sure to check her out. She's got a great YouTube channel with amazing how-to advice on Canva, and she'll do it for you, for your brand as well. So then you took, the 100K. So did you have to then go get inked and get things set up formally, get yourself a good attorney? Was he a good mentor as well for you?
So that was when we started getting things set up. And I mean, I spent a few days just in shock, I think, just couldn't believe it, because that was more money than I've ever seen in my lifetime, more money than my parents make, so it was just way too much. And I had to call the bank and ask them, do you accept this amount of money? Like, I didn't even know if a bank could hold that much money. But I just felt so incredibly lucky. And Andy, you nailed the point across, which is, definitely just putting yourself out there, right? And even if you get rejected, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? And always, I guess my lesson here is also always say thank you to the organizer. You never know who introduces you to different people.
That's right, folks. And before you go to a live virtual stream event or an in-person live event, this is the number one networking tip. Meet and connect with everybody before the event, not after, before. So that now they're and start promoting their work online, talk about them, try to do your best. And again, especially the organizer.
Yes. Oh, by the way, Andy, I forgot to mention, you actually introduced me through one of the live startup events that you had organized. This was only a year ago or two?
I think it was a year ago, Founders Live Boston, folks, which is the monthly pitch event that I co-host with Andy Jack. I'm thinking it was maybe May or June of 2019.
Yeah. You introduced us to, so one of the judges at the event, so I had lost that event, right? And then I went home, and then one of the judges reached out, and she was like, hey, I know someone who might be interested in investing. And they led our seed round, and we closed in July. So Andy, thank you for literally doing that for me. It was, again, what an incredible opportunity, you guys. If we ever go back to normal again, Startup Live is a fantastic event that I highly recommend, no matter what industry you're in.
Thank you so much. Hallelujah. That just makes our hearts sing with joy. It's, that kind of connection. I love that. Okay, so now you're ready to start building the business. What, how did that flow? Because you got up to some pretty high numbers for trading. And I'll be honest with you, I know zippity-doo-dah, or just enough about hedge fund trading, high frequency trading. Where did you go from there? You got your seed money in, and then?
Oh man, I mean, we were, just with trading, it became an obsession a little bit in terms of just trading every night. We would trade the European markets actually at 3 a.m. in the morning, which just shows you, what keeps you up at night is the thing that usually it's either something really bad or something hopefully really good. And it really just kept us going late into the nights, or we would, sometimes I would sleep early and then wake up at 3. But it was just super, super exciting. we kept on going from there, set up all of our, technologies and hired a bunch of interns and other folks, from school, and kind of got this thing up and running within, actually it took us 3 years to get to launch. So it was a really long time. And I'm sure for you guys, if you're working on startups, sometimes, even a month feels like forever in the startup world, and it really does. But once we got to launch, it was totally worth every moment of that wait, every moment of struggling and climbing and all those ups and downs.
Absolutely. And so you're moving along and you're helping wealthier folks get wealthier, yes?
Yeah, and that was something I had to that was really tough for me to, like accept even that fact, right? And I think, in finance in general, a hedge fund's business model, for those of you who are unfamiliar, basically we take funding money from, we call them limited partners. So these are folks who are either high net worth individuals, usually they're billionaires with family offices, or they can be institutions, pensions, endowments, et cetera. And then we trade that in the marketplace and, attempt to hopefully earn them additional gains and some more money and profits and revenues at the end of the day. And so that's basically our business model. In school, what's interesting was I was always taught, go make a difference in the world, right? Go do something good. You're privileged as you are, which is true, and try to go out there and do something different. But what actually happened was when we started the fund, we were trading from a dorm room. At first, we actually ended up making $40,000 in the span of like 3 months. It was insane. And this was before we had, really gotten to the point where we needed to develop more technologies and do an official hedge fund launch. We were just kind of trading on our own like this. And, I was $40,000 in debt at the time. And so, because of college, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, I can pay off my student loans, and this for me was it was super empowering. And so my kind of justification in my head at the time was like, well, it's my one way to get out of poverty, and the job market's competitive. It's not like you can just go work wherever you want and have a steady living no matter where you are. We're in a pandemic after all, too, right now. And back then I was just going through so much in school and stuff. And
sure.
So, yeah.
And then you went on and got your graduate degree, yes?
I actually never got a grad degree. Yeah.
So undergrad was MIT.
Yes, that's it. That I am so, I guess underqualified on paper in so many different ways.
No. You got all the qualification you need from experience, from your lived experience. The reason I was asking, I didn't know if you had any more school or were you doing this, but also I'm wondering wonderful angel, the goosebump moment. How did you meet the people who make the decisions to give you part of their fund to invest in the market? Because again, bunch of young kids right out of school. How did anybody go, oh yeah, I'm okay with that? Because these aren't individuals. These are corporations with their funds that they're managing very carefully.
That is such a great question, Ande. I think one thing about being an entrepreneur is it's all about rejection, right? I'm sure you guys can relate. You put yourself out there and you're constantly getting feedback and rejections. And sometimes they're kind rejections, sometimes they're rude rejections. You get all kinds of stuff like that. And I've kind of learned over time, to continue to put myself out there, no matter how many times I lose, how many times I get rejected. I have what's called a mountain of rejections that I put to the side. And so whenever I get rejected by an investor or by anybody else, I've gotten rejected by lawyers, accountants, whatever else, because they don't want to work with someone who looks like me or someone who's as young as me. And I just kind of put it on this mountain of rejections, and I try to move on with the next opportunity, the next one. And it's that 1 in 100 acceptance that eventually you get to a yes, right? And that yes means so much more because you had put yourself out there and gotten rejected so many times that one yes is just so incredibly meaningful. And so that's all I would, if there's anything you want to leave with today, it's just that, keep on putting yourself out there, keep on going, because eventually you'll get there. You just never kind of give up on it until, of course, there's constructive criticism, right? And I love constructive criticism because I think it's coming from a good place and it's helpful. And I always listen to that and improve and get better. And then, the other rejections, I just kind of put on this mountain of rejections and then move on and keep on going.
That is Such good advice. Can I get a thumbs up in the comments for that? Because it can be so disheartening. There can be zero evidence, sometimes negative evidence that you should be doing what you're doing.
Right.
And so to keep moving forward and keep showing up and proactively being out there and connecting and getting those rejections and, having even a ceremony, or as we like to do it in our household, Christina, we send out ships. Some get lost at sea, some get blown up. We go, oh my God, I don't know. I went to somebody else's harbor, not mine. But sometimes that ship comes in, right? And so that's another fun analogy to use to help keep you moving forward, that you're just sending out ships so that one of them comes home. And so where along the way did you feel like the best lesson that you got, like the really great win? And then tell us like something that just really was a disaster.
Oh man.
Okay. How do you keep it down to one? I know.
I have so many stories like that. I think a lot of the startup experience feels like a roller coaster. I'm sure some of you guys can relate to that, where, one day you're experiencing maybe the worst thing ever, and then suddenly the best thing happens, or vice versa. I mean, we had one day where an investor said yes to us, and then literally, I was super happy and celebrating inside. And then literally 10 minutes later, one of my colleagues decided to quit, and we had to find a replacement, so stuff like that just keeps going. It's this up and down roller coaster experience, and definitely happens to us a lot. I would say one of my biggest tables turn moments was actually, and something, because for me, I've always felt a little bit like a kid. I don't know about you guys as well, how old or young, no matter what stage you are in life, right? It's like once you're past 40, people call you dinosaur. When you're young, people call you a kid when you're under 40. So there's no kind of in between, right? But anyway, so one experience I had was actually, first for my internship, I didn't get a return offer, right? And it was from a bank, it was a trading team. And so I went back feeling a little bit bummed. There was one person on the team who was particularly, a little bit abusive and a little crazy. He was the guy who did all the push-up, encouraged all that behavior on the team, basically, a managing director. And but anyway, many years later, we had already launched the fund. We were trading. I already forgotten that experience and put it behind me. And I get a phone call from the company that I interned at, and this guy's on the phone. He's like, "Hey, we want to invest in your fund. Can you send us your documents?" And he gave me his email, and I was like, "Oh, this is the name of the guy. This is the director who completely
remember you."
Yeah, he didn't remember. He didn't know it was me. He had no idea it was me. He had, first off, he never learned the names of the interns, and he never knew it was me. And, obviously couldn't imagine that an intern would be in a position like that within the period of, 6 or 7 years. Right. So I was freaking out. I was like, wow, talk about tables turning. This guy literally went from, ignoring me. He would ignore me every morning when I said good morning to him and stuff. And now he's literally asking to invest in our business, and so we actually, yeah, so it kind of showed me like, wow, if anything, that was something that was worth, just worth all the pain and all the effort that we had gone through. And if we fail at the end of the day, at least, hey, I've gained the respect and the time of this guy, who traditionally used to just completely ignore me. So
right, that's a delicious full circle moment.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But along the way too, you had to up your tech game, because a lot of this stuff required, and also you had to do something which is always challenged. How many co-founders did you have?
So I have 2 co-founders, and thankfully, we had met each other through like different events and hobbies. So one of them I met at a trading competition, and and actually in college there's this thing called trading contests where you can trade in a simulated market, and a lot of these are international competitions. And I didn't know there's like a whole scene around this kind of stuff. It's super niche but really fun. I did the competition at MIT. Back in, I forgot, like 2010 or 2011. I got second to last. I think our team, we were second to last place or something. We did so bad that I would have done better if we just sat there doing nothing, but we tried, and then we like totally lost all this money. But anyway, so there's a guy at the contest who did really well. And, I said hi to him afterwards, and we ended up just keeping in touch, and eventually, realized we weren't friends. We weren't, we had literally nothing else in common, different majors, but we just had the same career goal. And so decided, why not team up?
Awesome.
And we're still, here. I'm still here with him today, and working on Databento together. So
that is great.
Yeah.
Because, that can always become a nightmare with co-founders, especially when you're young and you haven't, really had that much experience of partnering people, and how do we get the right agreements in place and ownership and all of that. That's wonderful. I love that story. And now you've taken this. Why do you think it was that so many people glopped onto this story, so that you were on the cover of these major, financial rags out there, and Forbes, and is it Nikkei, which is the other one?
The Nikkei, yeah, that's
Nikkei.
A newspaper.
Yeah, that's huge. What was it that attracted people to want to write about this story for you?
I have no idea. It's weird. They reached out to me, and I actually used to ignore. So one thing we used to do is actually just ignore all the publicity and all the media and stuff, because we thought that we didn't we didn't deserve it, or, who would want to read about our story, right? And but eventually we realized, that's another symptom of, we had, a lot of imposter syndrome about ourselves and about our story. And we realized that it's okay to tell the story about, it's a story written with failures. It's a story written with, it's not a perfect kind of, hedge fund startup kind of story, right? And so just realizing that telling that story can inspire people to do the same thing, no matter how old or young you are, and realizing that we need to go out there and talk. And so yeah, I think that for a lot of folks out there just was really interesting. It's not every day you hear about a hedge fund, started by a woman of color who is,
coming
from a dorm room, like all those situations and scenarios. Just
so many things against you.
Weird, yeah.
Age, gender, race, right there, economic bracket. It wasn't because you were the child of so-and-so, the third, or a famous person who said, listen, let me get you started. I got $1 million here. You had a lot. So it does make it very fascinating. And tell everybody you're writing a book about it?
Yes, I am writing a memoir. It's called The Finance Snake. And so it kind of talks a lot about that, a lot of the morality and ethical issues that we faced. But it is a memoir, so there's a lot of, so there's humor, because I like to use humor in my writing. But it just talks about that story of, when we were growing our fund, why did we start it? The experience of kind of starting the fund and then growing that, and all the mistakes we made, actually. There's another famous book in our industry called Principles by Ray Dalio. He's a famous hedge fund billionaire, right? And he writes about all these principles that he, that he used in Bridgewater, and how it worked out really well for him. And my book is about the principles that we had and how they were all wrong, and how they all completely, some of them almost turned into total disaster. They led to things like lawsuits. I've had it times when I just went home from the office crying, because of really big mistakes and really immature, naive mistakes that we made, principles that we thought were right as millennials, trying to start.
Were you ever worried that the SEC would come in and send you to jail?
Oh yeah, I was we were audited, by a lot of these regulatory organizations, and I was so scared and worried, especially, just with someone, I was in my 20s and didn't know what I was doing, right? And just was so scared that we had accidentally done something wrong, as a result of the mistakes we made.
You're not dealing with just OPM, other people's money. You're dealing with funds money. That's a whole nother level of responsibility. How did you handle that responsibility?
Yeah, it's scary. It's always scary at first. And then I think you just kind of get used to it, and you realize, like, it's the day-to-day, my day-to-days are very similar, and just learning to take on that responsibility. I think, but one thing that's helped me, I guess, over the years is that, I used to think of myself as a kid, like I'm the kid and my professors are the adults. You are the adult, Ande, and all the working professionals in this world are like the adults in the room. And I'm a kid because I'm like a student, and, but after graduation, I kept on treating myself like a kid. I realized in terms of the way I would write emails, just sounding really friendly, like, hi, Mrs. Lyons, like the way I would write was very much like I was a fourth grader. And then what happened was actually we had a recruiter who, emailed us back, and also a lawyer too. We had multiple people who emailed me back being like, oh, she's just a kid, and they'd call me a kid. And I kind of was a little bit like, oh, wait a second, if these people are calling me a kid, maybe I'm treating myself like a kid, and maybe I should change the way that I treat myself and the way that I treat, people around me. So I realized that, I do have value. I'm an adult. I'm like literally 23, 24 years old by then. And that I could definitely, first off, I'm an adult and treat myself like one. So every email I sent, instead of begging investors for money, I would be like, how can I help you? How can I help I be of value? And just realizing that I have a network as well. And so let's say I'm helping, if it's an investor, I'll be like, hey, by the way, I would love to work with you. And have you heard of this other startup here? I think you would enjoy meeting these people too. And so just making sure I always bring value to the table first. And that way, people stopped after that. Like people started treating me as an equal, and as, I guess as an adult, I don't know, still, I'm okay with being called.
That's a lesson we all need, because sometimes people are transitioning from one industry to another. And so they think, oh, well, maybe I was a hairstylist all these years and now I'm doing this. And they still hold themselves back in that image. And folks, a lot of times you have to just fake it till you make it. You got to step into your authority, try it on a few times, see how it fits. Adulthood in your case, it's starting to use language that shows your authority versus your insecurity. And it's, and it's not easy. It's a daily practice as you step more fully into your role as a founder. And a lot of folks, Christina, who leave corporate to launch their business, they stay in the employee mentality and they start looking for different, awards and recognitions, and you'll never get that as a founder. You have to shift out of that employee mindset and into a founder mindset. And there's folks like you who had, a few light jobs before, so many months experience internships, and then they went right into having their own business. You have to learn. I mean, I remember the guy who founded Squarespace out of his college dorm, right? And he said, one of the things I never knew how to do was like hire and fire. I mean, I never saw that. I mean, I never saw memos. I never saw communications. So you have to learn that along the way. And the only way you can learn that is through experience. So it's such a great journey. And Kirsten, bringing value to the table first builds trust. Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, me too. That's great.
That's a really good point. So let's dive into your current business, Databento, because, again, you felt called and inspired to launch an on-demand data platform accessible to all walks of life. What happened? And how did you park Domeyard while you did that?
Yeah, that was one of the scariest decisions I've made in my life in terms of, leaving an existing business, right? It's my baby. And as good or as bad as it's doing at the time, it's still like kind of you're leaving something that means so much to you that you've built up for so many years. But
right.
I think my calling just came from, I've always wanted, we've been taught our whole lives, right? Go out there and make a difference in the world. And I had mentioned before how as a hedge fund, we weren't exactly, making the biggest difference in the world. And I think anyone who tells you that they're doing good for the world at a hedge fund, that they shouldn't be saying that kind of stuff, right? Because even if they are trading ESG or socially responsible, all those social responsible kind of investments or impact investing, at the end of the day, they're still making billionaires richer because that is the hedge fund's business model. And I just realized that at this stage, I'm 29, so I'm almost 30 now. And I spent my entire 20s at this hedge fund that I've built up. And I realized now I'm in such a position of privilege that, I want to be able to help people who are starting their own businesses in our industry, and to give them access to high quality market data and alternative data in this space. And so that was the biggest thing, was just realizing that I want to be able to give back at this stage. And also it was a real problem we were trying to address, because we actually wasted over $1 million on data, when at our hedge fund. And so we knew the data industry, and we knew it could be improved.
That's what I love. So you found the problem you wanted to solve because you experienced it yourself. Your hypothesis was that other folks would like this, but it would be for what, daily? What is the business model behind Databento?
Yeah, so we basically have algorithms that we've created over time that can slice and price any data set of any customization, whatever size you want, whatever asset classes you're looking for, and things like that. And so
who's your customer?
So our customers right now, it's mainly any kind of either fintech companies or quants or traders, researchers, anyone who is looking for a new data set. Maybe they're launching a new product or a new team and need something new and to explore. So we are a good exploration platform because of the way it's being sold, which is a la carte instead of in bulk. So we're the first data retailer rather than a wholesaler.
So you're a trader retailer.
Yep. That's right.
It's so cool. I got to tell Dan Willis about this. He goes live every morning about talking on a platform like this, talking about trading. So here's the scoop, everybody. I love talking about this because founders, you need to be working on this as well, which is called Prove That Value Prop. Christina and her founders, co-founders said, yes, this is what, problem we had. We know there are folks out there, but it is a hypothesis until people start buying it again and again. How did you prove that? What was it like once you launched and you found your customer segment? What did they teach you? Because our customers teach us everything.
Yeah, I absolutely love, Ande, the lean startup method in terms of, going out there, talking to your customers as soon as you possibly can, and getting their feedback and getting their first impression and their questions, because even their questions can show you how, what they think of the platform, or what confuses them about the thing that you're about to build or, have already built up. And so we just went out there as soon as we could, talk to actually our own hedge fund investors are also, potential clients on the platform, to talk to all of our network, all of our investors, and just got their feedback on kind of what we're working on. And so that was extremely helpful. I definitely recommend, if you guys are working on your businesses, go out there, even if your product isn't ready. Because I know, especially women I'm perfectionist, right? And we're told to be perfect. And, we grow up thinking we need to be perfect and stuff. And so I had that mindset growing up of like, I need to build a perfect product and then go out there for feedback. Right. But actually that's not the case at all. I had to get rid of my perfectionist mindset and just go out there with an imperfect MVP that's barely viable as a product, or not even that, even just an idea, even when we're at the idea phase without our product, we would still go out there and just get people's feedback as soon as we possibly can. And so that was a mindset I had to learn to adopt over time.
That's right. Unfortunately, you had that pile of rejections, that mountain pile of rejections and your lived experience that prepared you for that. But boy, customers can, be your next bajillion dollars. They'll come up with an idea you didn't think of, and off you go going, yes, that's exactly what we needed in order to make this a smoother launch. And, perfectionism can happen to, many genders, all the genders. It's just a lot of times, we do get caught up in wanting, when we're ready to get that feedback, we want it to just be just right so I can feel good, instead of just saying minimum viable product, and then start building on that. And you had to get it. Did you bring in a CTO? How did you fill that role?
Yeah, so we did. So I had two co-founders, and thankfully, so one of them was a CTO, and one of them was the head of our research, operations in the business as well. And we just complemented each other extremely well. So I am the non-technical founder, in case you guys are curious. And I know there's in the startup world, especially in Silicon Valley, right? There's a little bit of a stigma against the non-technical founder, because it's like, it's always the technical person that's building it, and then the non-technical person's known as like the ideas guy, right? And you don't want to be like just the ideas guy. But one thing I've realized over time, as in my own position as a non-technical person was that I can pretty confidently state that I was probably the most valuable person in our hedge fund, throughout the lifetime of the organization over the past 8 or 9 years. And the biggest reason I can say that is just because, I held everything together during the worst days. There were times when our researchers were not delivering any value. They were losing a lot of money. And, if it was just them on the team not delivering any value, then, the investors would have pulled out a long time ago, right? But
Right.
I kept the channels going, kept up with pretty much everything on the compliance side, on the operation side, and hiring people, right? Firing people when we need to, and kind of doing all those things behind the scenes that kind of made everything happen eventually. And so just kind of learning that value that I had, the value that I brought as a founder and as a leader was very important as well. And people stay, again, and employees, people stay because of people, right? They don't stay, people, they also leave because of people being bad, right? They don't leave companies, they leave people is the common phrase that we hear. So making sure that as a person and as a teammate that I'm good to people, and that we have an effective organization is also something that matters a lot.
I love that. And here you are in your second business, and folks out there, you've got to know, just like if any of you are parents, none of your kids are the same. Wouldn't that be great? You could parent them with all the template that you used on the other one. No, businesses are the same too. They are not the same. They come with different personalities, different challenges. What stands out with Databento that you didn't experience with Domeyard?
Oh man, I love how refreshing it is to be able to build an actual product and to launch it. So I think the meaning of the work that we're doing and the fact that we have customers, and happy customers, it just means so much to me, because in the hedge fund experience, we didn't have traditional, customers in the traditional sense. We didn't have a product in the traditional sense. So that really meant a lot that we could do that. And then also the fintech industry. So Databento is a lot more on the fintech side, whereas Domeyard is a hedge fund, so it's more like a financial firm. In the fintech industry, it is a lot more it's a lot more friendly, and there's so much more support and so many investors at just so much, just everything. Whereas in the hedge fund space, there weren't as many resources.
Hedge fund world is Sharkville, right?
Yeah.
And whereas you're right about the fintech industry, because that's where, fintech goes on to the whole financial services area. And of course, that area is all about building up self-esteem and empowerment and connection and relationships. And so that's what you're building with Databento. I'm going to put that right back up there again. Databento. So here you are. You're a 2-time founder now, 2X, and you're building your second company. You have shared some wonderful stories about what it's been like to feel inadequate as a founder. How, in reflecting, how has this experience, the really, and I'm just, it's harsh, it's heavy duty. The hedge fund gave you certain lived experiences, and now Databento is giving you other experiences. What mindset hacks can you share about your founder journey that will help other founders when they're sitting there feeling inadequate? And again, you've given us some great advice when they're struggling with, how do I make this decision? How do I move forward?
Oh man, so I have so many pieces of advice. I don't even know where to begin. I think maybe the first one is that for me as a founder, I suffered from all kinds of things like perfectionism. Indecision paralysis is a great term as well, where you're trying to decide on 2 different things that are both tempting, and so you just don't decide at all. You just freeze, right? And that happens to a lot of us as well, especially for me as a perfectionist. I always want to make sure I'm making the right decisions, but it's actually better to just make a decision. Even if it's wrong, you backtrack and then make the other decision. At least from experience of doing it, right? So it's always better to go out there, put yourself out there, go through that pitch contest, go through whatever it is that you're signing up for, a startup event or the networking event,
Right.
Just put yourself out there. For me, I'm actually very introverted, surprisingly. I know I don't sound like it, but at networking events, I dread going to networking events. I sign up because I just think about the food. I'm like, okay, there's going to be good food, and so that's what makes me like go. And I always promise myself at these networking events, like if you set like 1 or 2 easy goals for yourself that are attainable, like for me, it's like meet 3 new people at this networking event, and then I'll feel satisfied and be able to go home feeling like I accomplished those goals. And so I always make sure to set myself goals like that of meeting people or saying hi, or if it's a Zoom webinar, like saying hi and putting my link to my company or whatever it is, right? Like it sounds a little scary, but you just do it, because what's the worst thing that can happen is, I don't know, either a no or a rejection or whatever it is that you're looking for. But anyway, that's okay. And getting a no is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And if you're not getting enough no's, actually, maybe you're not setting the bar high enough, right? If you're always getting accepted to stuff, then it's like you're not quite challenging yourself enough in terms of, it's good to get some no's, good to get some feedback and rejections as well. So
I love that.
Yeah, normalizing rejections and no's is okay, and learning that that's a part of your life, and that that's a part of living. It's fine.
And when you find yourself going down that pathway of negativity, when you're feeling really inadequate, is there something you do that can just sort of jumpstart, that you just go, let's turn this around, because we don't have time for that. We've got to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's actually a couple things. Depends on the kind of negativity and the rejection. One is I make sure, I just will take a break sometimes, like go take a break, or go, watch some TV, distract my mind, talk to a friend, listen to an audiobook, do some arts and crafts, and learning that as a founder, it's okay. I know we're always taught to hustle, never stop, don't sleep, right? But that it's okay to take a nap, to go to sleep, take a break, even go on vacation. I don't know, maybe just a staycation today, but just doing something to take some time off and getting back into the right mindset, because you never want to work with that kind of, so for me, it's really, I get triggered by certain things, and
Right.
I just make sure that I always try to get back into that positive mindset before I go back to work, because I don't want my employees to notice that I'm, totally angry, or, they don't like that either. Right. And so making sure that I can take a break. I just let them know, here, I'm just going to be offline for an hour, I'll talk to you later on Slack. Right. But just, it's okay to take a break as a founder. You deserve it, as much as your employees do too. And so that's what I usually do. And then retune myself and then come back when I'm ready.
I love that advice, something fierce, for so many reasons. We have often been told you got to push through. And when you're going through hell, keep going. There's all these great quotes out there. The real opportunity for you, though, is to take a break, is to pull back and deal with whatever you need to deal, shift your energy, go for a walk, dance around the room, just sit quiet, read a book, do something, and then come back. That pushing it through when your energy is really not, some days you're tired and you have to push through, but I'm talking about when you are just not there emotionally, you've got to stop. I love that advice, Christina. So here you are with Databento. I want to bring that up again because I just love the name of this company. Databento.
Yay.
Yay. And Databento. Mwah. I just feel like delicious.
Yeah.
And how may we support you and your wonderful work in the world? And everybody know we're going to have all the links to Christina. You can see them on her banner, all of them right there on her banner. How can we support you with what you're doing?
Oh man, at this point in time, I feel extremely privileged to be here and to even get to know you, Ande. Has been such a privilege. I'm so glad I signed up for Startup Live last year and got to know you through this entire experience. By the way, you guys sign up for all of these opportunities because they're great. But anyway, in terms of, I guess, I would love for you guys to check out my book when it comes out. I don't know the date yet, but sometime next year in 2021. It's called The Finance Snake, a memoir about my $1 billion hedge fund. And so it'll be pretty, you'll probably know it's me because it talks about $1 billion hedge fund. There's not a lot of women who have such a crazy kind of experience and organization. But would just love for you guys to check that out. It talks about my spiral down into this industry that people call evil, right? And kind of how did I deal with all that stuff going on, all those principles we got wrong, hopefully which will be good lessons that we thought were good principles, by the way, that completely missed the mark, and would love for you guys to check that out when the timing, when it comes out.
How did you come up with the word finance snake? I love that.
I think people have called me that ever since college, actually. I don't know if it's a slang term, but when I
Were
first
you born in the year of the snake? Is that a year to be even born in?
I was not born in the year of the snake. I'm so sad. I wish I was now. So yeah, when I first got my internship at Goldman Sachs, actually one of my friends who became my future co-founder, he was like, "You finance snake," as a joke, but he wasn't trying to be mean or anything, but just because especially I went to MIT, which is a tech school. It's really rare for people from a tech school to go into finance, and if you do go into finance, you're considered a snake. That was the
right,
name.
and that's why I kept thinking you must have gone to Sloan or something, because at MIT.
Yeah, so they call this either Wall Street, a cop out, or what do you call it, a sellout onto Wall Street. There's a bunch of other terms for it, but I just felt like the finance snake is such a great way to describe it. So I was like, okay, you know what, I'll use that as the name.
Right. And folks, Christina has it has probably 10,000 views or more, right, on YouTube. She got up there and she did a video as well, which is, going to really help when you start promoting your book next year. I put the link into the live comment section for everybody, along with Christina's LinkedIn and her Twitter URLs, but I'll have all of that in the show notes, everybody, so you can connect. And Christina's she's out there. She loves helping people. You can see right here, and she speaks a lot and she shares her wisdom a lot everywhere she goes. Any last thoughts for folks before we finish up here?
Well, thank you so much again, Andy, for doing this. I think my final thoughts for you guys and last piece of advice is maybe just, again, go out there and do the thing that wakes you up in the morning. I know a lot of people here who are wondering, should I start my startup? Should I continue doing my startup? And I think so long as it keeps you excited and motivated, at the end of the day, no one can judge you, right? It's up to you and your own decision. So just go for it and keep on going. I know it's a tough year. It's a crazy, crazy time in our history, human history in general. But at the end of the day, keep on going. Do those things that excite you, because again, life is short and it'll pass you by. I mean, for me, I'm at the stage where I'm like, oh, my 20s have passed me by, so quickly, right? And it'll just keep on going and keep on going. And so just, do those things that you love, because, time is so precious and you'll never get that time back. I guess one thing for me if there's anyone here who's younger in their 20s, right? I know a lot of my classmates in college, we would say stuff like, oh, let me spend 2 years of time in investment banking, sacrifice 2 years in some industry I don't want to actually be in, like investment banking, and then start a company and then do what I really want to do next. And my advice is always like, every day of your life matters. 2 years is a very long time to be doing something you don't want to do. And so just be careful and think about those things. And you can always find something. I do believe that you can find something you can do that will pay you enough money eventually, that will help you succeed and get to a stage where you're stable, right? And that's always possible. You just got to believe.
I love that. And you took on a really big, hairy, audacious idea, Christina. Really big. And you made it happen. And you had to suffer through some tough decisions, which are not easy. But again, that lived experience is going to pay off big time. And it is paying off with your second business. So I am so grateful for the wisdom that you shared from your journey, your incredible journey, especially as a woman in finance. And folks, go look up how many women are in hedge funds. So that was huge. And you really are a role model and an example and a mirror for many women out there who might be thinking but feeling uncomfortable. You can do it. You can do it as a young woman. Things can happen provided that you show up and be ready for all those no's and rejections along the way. Thank you so much for joining us, Christina. And folks, thank you for tuning in and carving out time for your founder journey. We learned so much from hearing other founders' startup stories. We can get some aha moments along the way, and we can be a little gentler with ourselves when we have our rut-row moments. So I'm so grateful that Christina shared her wisdom. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer them. And again, for those of you who are watching, the replay. Thank you for liking the video and for subscribing. And founders, I also want to share, we talk about this a lot. You do not need to go on this journey alone. It helps. You save time, you save money. And as I'm always saying, a new business does not come with instructions. I have 4 businesses behind me. I help in these various ways: pitch deck reviews, strategy sessions, on demand. I mean, my founders, my clients, they call me 5-10 minutes. They may have a quick question. They shoot me an email. That's what on-demand coaching looks and feels like. And it's so, give me a call or set up a 15-minute conversation right here. I need to get a QR code for that for you guys, so that we can talk. I'd love to learn more about you and your business and see if maybe there's a fit for us. And also to receive an alert every time I go live. I'd love for you to join the meetup group. Very easy. I have a show once or twice a week, usually at Tuesdays at 1 and Fridays at 1 p.m. EST. And it lets you stay up on what's going on in the Startup Life Live world. I'm always bringing you founders who will share incredible stories and ideas and thoughtful conversation to help you and your business. Because as you do better, your business is going to do better. Until next time, stay strong, stay focused, and remember, you've got this, right? Yeah, you do. That's what Christina said, and I'm saying it too. See you next time. Mwah!